Hello, what is going on, guys? Hockey Guy 1 here. Welcome to my review of Frozen. Frozen is directed by Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee and stars Kristen Bell, Idina Menzel, Josh Gad, Jonathan Groff, and Alan Tudyk. The story is about Elsa and Anna kind of get split up because of how Elsa accidentally froze her head. So about 15 or so years later, Elsa is being coronated to become the next queen of Arendelle. So she accidentally reveals her powers and then runs to the North Mountain and then mistakenly freezes the entirety of Arendelle. So up to Anna, Kristoff, and Olaf to bring her back to Arendelle to try and unfreeze this, as well as Anna mistakenly got her heart frozen, so they have to try and find true love for that to try to unfreeze it. So the story is pretty complex. I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, they do a good job with it, though. I think they do a pretty good job kind of connecting all these storylines together and kind of creating a consistent story throughout and really relying on all three acts to try to make this movie one whole story. And I really like how they do that, as the story is pretty much just a callback to Disney princess movies, and the traditional way of doing that is Disney doesn't really do that as often now. And I kind of like how they do that, as this is kind of a new take on that, as it's just kind of how it's like a mission, and there's a bunch of layers to the story that really help it out, and it does really well with adding those up and fitting in a consistent story. The structure is pretty good. I mean, you got the first act, which pretty much shows Anna and Elsa's kids getting together and how she mistakenly froze Anna's head, and it's pretty well done. I mean, it's a good way to introduce the story, and as well as just kind of the coronation to start things out, and it pretty much works out well. And then the second act's pretty much where Elsa pretty much goes crazy on her, because she's trying to get with Hans after just meeting him, and kind of runs away and things, and then it's the whole looking for Elsa thing is the whole second act, and they do a good job with that, as it does connect with the first act well and moves along the story. And then the third act's pretty much where Prince Hans ends up finding Elsa and kind of bringing her back, and then Anna eventually has to try to come back to find true love because of the frozen heart that she ended up getting. Yeah, and then kind of climax when Anna steps in, and then the ending that's pretty satisfying. And like I said, it's a complex story, and the structure that really relies on the structure, and it's a really good structure, which really helps out the story a lot, and as all three acts do connect with each other very well. Anna is our main character, and she's pretty good in this movie, I'd say. I mean, and they do a good job developing her character, as kind of as a kid, she just wants to play a lot, and you really feel for her, because it's kind of sad because she doesn't get to play with her sister anymore, and it just feels really sad for her. And it's kind of develops with Kristoff a bit, as even if it's not the most well-written love story, I think they did a good enough job with it, as it is pretty developed, as they do get to know each other more, and Kristoff kind of gets to tell her more about how she shouldn't be married someone just met, and which is kind of something she learns over time. And with Prince Hans, as Prince Hans does kind of betray her, obviously, and it's kind of just a good message to send, to be honest, and it really ties into her character, as it really helps out her character, and just her whole sister relationship with Elsa just is what really helps her character and shows her character a lot, as you can see how they have a good relationship with each other. Kristoff is also a pretty good character. I mean, they show a lot of him, as you kind of get to see how he doesn't really have that much. I mean, pretty much he just has a job trying to sell ice and has his friends Ben, and as well as just those troll things. And honestly, that's about it. But his character just kind of develops over time with Anna, and kind of liking more as kind of well. Just the journey just really helps his character out a lot, as there is a bit much to his character, and they do a good job developing him throughout this movie. Elsa is a very good character. I mean, there is definitely a lot to her. I mean, she has these magic powers that can turn anything to ice, basically, and that's pretty much her main character kind of trait, and it's pretty good. I mean, and she's just this power person, and as well as just how her character goes makes sense. I mean, she wants to go away because she revealed her powers kind of, and isn't really happy with that, so she kind of does go in, but then she kind of does learn more over time to appreciate her more, as she does end up saving Anna by the end of the movie, which I do think they do a good job kind of telling her as a character like that, as she does mistakenly frees her and then kind of makes up for that, and it kind of just shows how good the relationship is, and I really like how she ended up developing to come back and stay in there no more, which is a really good way to kind of complete her character arc. Olaf is obviously the comedy relief, and he's pretty good at that. I mean, he can crack a few funny jokes now and then, and she is obviously just this very lovely character, which kind of helps with comedy relief, as pretty much it helps to just kind of forget about the events, and she's really good as a comic relief, as his character is pretty much obviously written as that, and he just can crack a joke from time to time, and he's just a very lovable character. Voice acting is very good. I mean, Kristen Bell does a very good job as Anna. She really does feel like the character and brings something to her character, as she does really feel like the character. I mean, when she's singing it, she feels like the character, because she actually does a good job with the singing and the voice, and even with just voice acting in general, just how she reacts to things and uses her voice to match the emotions, just really works for her voice acting, and she does a good job in it. Dina Menzel also does a pretty good job as Elsa. I mean, she does feel like the character for the most part, and does do a really good job with the singing as well, just like Kristen Bell. She does a very good job in the role, and really feeling like the character. Of course, I do feel like everyone did good. Like Josh Gad, he really felt like Olaf and did act very well with each scene. And then, of course, Alan Tudyk is pretty much his traditional being in every single Disney movie, basically. And he does a pretty good job. I mean, he's been in every single Disney movie since Wreck-It Ralph, and this movie is really no difference. He does a great job, in very much all his roles. The animation is just amazing. I mean, and just the character design is just really impressive. I mean, each human kind of feels like a human that's in CGI. I mean, like Elsa, I mean, they kind of something unique. I mean, in just the whole design of her kind of resembles of someone with no powers, which I really like how they do that. And then Anna just kind of resembles a normal person a bit, and I like that as well. Then there's Sven, which obviously they had to animate a lot of fur for him, which is impressive that they're able to do and make it look smooth. And then Olaf as well. Obviously, I thought that snow this looks smooth and it's pretty good. And then there's the background designs, which are really impressive. I mean, all that snow that they had to animate, because, there's a lot of snow and ice in this movie, and it's pretty impressive how they're able to do them and make it look good. And that is what's really impressive about this movie. And then the whole kingdom of Arendelle just looks really good. Like the castle, it just resembles the castle really well, and I don't like how it looks. And then there's the castle, nice castle that Elsa ends up running into and making. Looks really good as well, as it's just pretty impressive how it looks, and I really like how it looks. Soundtrack is very good. I mean, Do You Want to Build a Snowman is just a very, pretty much emotional song. I mean, it kind of shows how Anna just wants to play with Elsa and just being locked away for years and years. And having this song go on for years and years is what really makes it effective and really shows just how much Anna wants to play with Elsa and how much she misses the good old days when they were just going around and playing with each other. Love is an Open Door is basically just a song to trick you. I mean, it's basically just there because there's Anna who thinks she's gonna be with Hans, and then she thinks they actually like each other, and that's pretty much the whole point of the song. I mean, they're saying how it's an open door, and it's pretty good for what it is. I mean, it works for the moment pretty well, and it makes sense as they do think they want to get married at the moment. And Let It Go is pretty much just Elsa wants to basically let go of her powers because she's already revealed them to the world, so she's going to let it go, as the song pretty much recommends. And I feel like that's a good way to really show the reason why Elsa is just going away. And I mean, it's a good song, and it really works for the moment of this movie. I mean, it just shows how Elsa just wants to let go of her powers and how she wants to go away, basically. I mean, and it's just a very good song that really works for the moment. Then there's the song Summer, which is basically just to show Olaf's character. I mean, it basically portrays how he's a happy character and very optimistic that he wants to see Summer, and it pretty much just shows what he wants to do. And I like how they end up doing that. It's just a really happy song compared to the other songs before this. That said, this movie does have its negatives. Like, Hans is just pretty much your typical twist villain. I mean, it doesn't really make sense for him to be a twist villain. I mean, it's basically just because he wants to be a king, basically, and he wouldn't be able to do that in his kingdom because of his spot, and it really doesn't make sense for him to be a villain. I mean, and it really feels like at the last second they're like, oh, we need a villain, just throw in Hans, yeah, he'll be the villain. And it really doesn't make sense. I mean, and it's just basically doesn't really reveal himself till near the end of the movie, and basically doesn't really do much villainous acts, so he can't really be intimidating, and he basically just tricks Anna, basically, and that's it. I mean, it really doesn't feel like they originally put him as the villain, because it's how lazy it was with this, and just how bland they were here. It's just pretty much, unacceptable thing about this movie. And the only song I really didn't feel like made sense was Fixer Upper. I mean, that song just really didn't make sense. It kind of felt like Disney was like, oh, we didn't have a song in the second half yet, so let's just put in a song like this. And Fixer Upper just doesn't really seem like it made sense for the moment. I mean, it pretty much just a song about how the trolls are singing about Anna and Kristoff getting together, and it really didn't make sense for that scene. I mean, it was meant to be a scene that pretty much where Kristoff was bringing them to save Anna, so that kind of a song just didn't really make sense for the moment, really. Overall, Frozen is a very great movie, and I'm gonna give Frozen a 9 out of 10. That was my review of Frozen. What are your thoughts on Frozen? Tell me in the comments below, and I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.